Hey all you addicts out there, welcome back to another Addicted Fishing tutorial. I'm Jordan Knigge, and today we're taking you guys out on the lake and we're showing you everything you need to know about spinner fishing for trout. So first and foremost, what we're going to start with is rod selection. What I have here is the Okuma Guide Select Pro 2 to 6 pound line rated ultralight rod. This is something they just came out with and I love it already. It's got some really nice inlaying in the cork all the way down through here. And really why this 2 to 6 pound rating is so much fun is for the sensitivity. When you're fishing these spinners, you want to be able to feel that blade spinning so you know you're effectively fishing. So having that good sensitivity all the way through the rod is crucial to be able to feel the bite and actually be effectively fishing. I also like the ultralight action because even when you catch small fish, it's a really good fight. And then when you do catch those bigger broodstock fish, you really get your butt kicked. So having that 2 to 6 pound rating is a lot of fun. What I have this reeled with is an RTX 30S. I have the 30 model mainly so I can get a lot of line on there. If I'm casting a long ways or using a Castmaster or any kind of like Panther Martens spinner, which we'll go over in a second, I want to be able to have enough line on there to cast as far as I need to without running out of that line. So that's the perfect size for me, is the 30S. Really great little reel. What I have it lined with is 10 pound P-line braided line. And why I'm using that 10 pound, again, is going into that casting ability. That lighter braided line, again, allows that super great sensitivity, which that braided line offers you, and it doesn't have any stretch, so you feel everything that's happening at the end of your line. Also, that 10 pound comes off the reel probably better than any size of braided line. If you start getting up into the 20s and 30s, anything like that, you start having a lot more bind up when you cast hard with that heavier diameter line. So using that 10 pound braided line is really nice because it's extremely strong. You can still break it. You're not actually getting stuck on the bottom and breaking these ultralight rods. So you're still able to break that line, but it gives you that really great casting ability and allows you to cast a long distance into these lakes and these ponds like you need to. So from here, now that we have our whole setup here, what I like to always do, you can tie a bumper onto this 10 pound, but really you don't need to. If you're going with a heavier diameter braid, you might want to tie a little 6 pound fluorocarbon bumper onto that, whether it's with a swivel, or whether it's with a blood knot or any kind of uni knot, which we can show you guys later. But what I like to do first to create a little bit less line mishaps is I use these little swivels. This is a size 16 Mustad gold swivel. You can use gold, you can use black. I've seen it a couple times make a difference in catching fish, but make sure to maybe have both, because one day you'll be out there on the lake and your buddy next to you is going to catch all the fish and you're not, and you're going to know it's just because of that stinking swivel. So have both colors, they work great. That size 16 is perfect for this because you really don't need much. Don't really need this for weight at all. You just want it to be able to let that spinner blade spin without twisting up your line. So what I've done here is I've gone right through the eye of the barrel swivel end of this. Just going to tie a simple clinch knot, tie about 7 wraps around my main line with this tag end. And then from here, I'm going to take the tag end and go right back through the eye of my line, not my actual swivel. So I got lucky, I got that one first try, just like so. Let's do the eye of the line and not the swivel. So I'm going to pull that tight, just like so. Got that, great. I'm going to grab my scissors here and trim off this tag end. And you don't want to leave this tag end because it has potential to get stuck in your blade and kind of make a little bit of difference in how your spinner is being presented. So there we go. I have my little snap swivel set up with a normal clinch knot right to my braided line. And again, you can put a bumper on if needed. Most of the time it's not, especially with that 10 pound braid, which is super fine. So that's our setup, everybody. What we're going to do next is we're going to pan over and we're going to talk about spinner selection. There's a lot of different options on the market. Trout are very color-oriented little creatures, so having a lot of different colored spinners in your box is very important. So different styles work a lot better than others as well, depending on where you're fishing, whether it's a small pond or a big lake or moving water in a river. So this setup is good for lakes, ponds, and rivers, whichever you're going to be fishing for these trout and with these spinners. So what we have here next to us is probably some of my favorite colors and some of my favorite spinners, really. These are what you call rooster tail. These are more the classic trout fishing spinner. What the problem is with these is they can be set pretty light at times, so you may need to add split shot, you know, quartered up your line a foot or two to allow you to cast a little bit further. But the nice part about these is that they have a very small blade, they spin very easily, and the trout love them. These little tails on the end allow you to put a little bit of scent on there if you want, some water soluble, anything like that to kind of give you that extra edge. Having multiple colors of these, again, is very important. I've seen a big difference in gold blades and silver blades at times. So have different options with gold blades and different options with the silver blades as well. As you see going across here, I have basically the entire color scheme. The second spinner I'm going to show you guys is probably my favorite. It's these little Panther Martens. Why I love these first and foremost is it's got a nice little weight on there. These are about an 1/8 ounce heavy little spinner, and really because of that, this is a size 6, because of that you can really get some good casting. The biggest problem with a lot of trout spinners when you're using the smaller sizes, under, you know, anywhere from the 6 in Panther Marten down to the number 2s and 3s in like a Blue Fox spinner, is that you can't cast them very far. So having the spinner that has a little more weight to it really kind of ups your game at times in certain places, especially if you're fishing any kind of moving water and you need it to get down. So these Panther Martens are great. I like the black with the gold blade, but they have, I mean, probably 25 different color schemes that you can buy. Every one of them works. You have to find your favorite at the same time. This is mine. So what I have next to this one is a little bit older school style, just a bullet bodied Panther Marten, same thing, gold blade, red body. Be sure to check your regulations as you go to different lakes and ponds to make sure you can use treble hooks on these. There's some rivers that you would fish for trout that are restricted to single barb or single barbless or something like that. So be sure you can use the treble hooks that are on these. Some of these come with the sidewash hooks, but be sure to check your regulations depending on where you're fishing. So this is a great one again for getting it a long ways. This is a very easy one to cast. It goes a long distance and it creates a really good vibration. This is a Vibrax blade, so it really throws off a lot of sound and a lot of vibration as that spinner is getting pulled back to you. So what we have next to this one is a good old faithful Blue Fox, and this is what I mean by a sidewash hook. This is that single hook. So if you're on a river that is single barbless, you pinch that barb, you put that single hook on, and you're legal. So with these Blue Fox, I really love. They're very loud, they're very abrasive, and they're very aggressive to the fish because they have that bell body. You can hear it just right here. It's jingling around, and you can hear that thing all the way across the lake when you go to cast it. So that being said, it's a completely different bite. Why I like them is a little bit because of the color schemes. Yellow is a great one of my favorite. Blue, and then the Michael Jackson, which is the sparkly black with the silver tip. All the colors work. Again, having a bunch of them really doesn't hurt. You can use them in a lot of different adaptations. But these are my favorite here, these little Blue Foxes, especially if I'm fishing any kind of moving water. These seem to fish a lot better in rivers than they do in lakes and big ponds. So keep that in mind. Keep all these spinners in your box. And what we're going to do next, guys, is we're going to step down onto the water with one of my favorite spinners, and I'm going to actually show you how to cast and where to cast, and we'll show you why we're going to fish certain spots in the lake, and really kind of how to get the overview of how to fish a spinner in a lake. So I got my snap swivel here. I'm going to grab my favorite one, which is this Panther Marten here. Clip that right onto this little clasp, and I'm going to shut the snap on the back side there, and we're ready to fish. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to turn around with you, and I'm going to look at the lake. How you really want to break down any kind of lake or pond that you're fishing is first find the freshwater inlet and find the freshwater outlet. Where is the inlet and outlet of that lake? If it has those, that's usually a place I would start in the springtime or even in the fall when those fish go in to do kind of a fall spawn. If you're fishing an area that's been stocked, a lot of times the best areas to start is where they stock the fish, right around the boat launch, right around any of the areas that they actually pull up to the lake and put the fish in. Those fish will stay stagnant to that area for quite some time, just kind of equating to the lake. So what we have here is a natural lake. This thing doesn't have a freshwater outlet or inlet, so it's basically just a big structure, and it has a lot of depth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for structure on the bank. As you see in front of us, we have logs, we have submerged trees, we have big boulders out in front of us in the lake, and every lake is going to be completely different. But what I want to look for first is some kind of structure, because those fish are feeding. They're swimming around, doing circles around the lake, looking for food, and working that structure for all the insects and natural things that they eat inside the lake. So what I'm going to do really is cast at every angle that I can from my position. I'm going to start by casting, say, always to the right. If you're a right-handed person, that's a good way to start. Cast to the right and make a broken down mathematical cast at each section of the lake. One being to the far right, one to the center, one to the left, all the way down till you're casting right alongside the bank, and this never hurts to move. So after you've covered that area, after you spend 5 to 10 minutes casting in each direction, letting that spinner sink, you're gonna move on down the bank if possible and keep fishing the structure around that lake. So step down here with me and we'll show you guys really what we're talking about. Okay, so the way I'm gonna start here is like I explained before. I'm gonna cast as far in one direction as I can to start with and start working my way across. So check if you have any obstructions, get ready to go here. I'm gonna cast that pretty much in any lake. It never hurts to cast just about as far as you possibly can, just to get that much more fishing room as that spinner comes back to you. So now that I've cast it, I'm gonna watch my line as it lays on the water. And as the bit of line that's in the water keeps coming towards me, you can tell when that spinner hits the bottom. What'll happen is your line will slack, completely stop falling, and you'll stop seeing that line in the water going deeper and deeper. Once that happens, you're gonna close that bail and you're gonna start reeling. What I like to do right when that happens is I like to engage my spinner. I'm sitting on the bottom now, we're safe. But I like to engage that spinner by lifting my tip and reeling 2 or 3 times a little bit faster than you would want to. So I'm gonna lift that up, start reeling, and I'm gonna keep that rod tip pointed right at my spinner at about a 45-degree angle over the water. And what that's gonna allow is that flexibility in my rod, if a trout does come and hit the spinner, to be able to pull down, grab that fish and create that hook set without me really having to do anything. So as that spinner comes back, I keep my rod tip up in the air, and as it gets closer, I point it down and create a little bit more depth with that rod tip. So any direction you point your rod tip is the direction that spinner is going to go. So if you're pointing it up in the air, it's going to bring that spinner to the surface. If you point it down at the water, it's going to bring that spinner lower and keep it lower in the water column as it comes through. So now that I've cast it that way, I'm going to turn a couple degrees, pointing my shoulders in the direction I want to cast. I landed that. That was a great cast. The perfect cast. Let that fall all the way to the bottom. Point my rod tip right at that spinner, and I'm gonna keep bringing that thing right in. Again, keeping my rod tip low to keep that spinner down in the water column. And if I feel a bite, if that spinner stops, I'm gonna lift straight up and allow that fish to come and grab that spinner. All right, so third cast, I'm gonna go a little bit more angled to the left. Once again, letting that thing sink all the way to the bottom, tip down, and a nice steady reel. The speed that you want to reel when you're doing this is really just whatever the spinner blade is telling you. If you feel it vibrating fast and hard, you're probably reeling too fast. If you can feel that spinner rotating at about 3 to 5 repetitions per second, I'd say, that's probably the correct speed that you want to have that spinner blade going. So what you can see here is the difference in the amount of light that comes off that spinner blade as you pull at a different speed. See how I'm pulling it at that nice slow rate, and it's actually creating more flash than if I was pulling it fast. I'll cast again here and show you that. I'm gonna reel this one in a little bit faster than I would want to. So look back down at the water here, and you'll be able to see the difference in the presentation when I reel this fast. You see how flashy and quick that spinner goes by. That's gonna entice a different bite in those fish. So using both can actually work well. But having a different technique, being able to switch it up, and again, being able to move down the bank is what's gonna make you most successful with these spinners. All right, everybody, so that pretty much sums up using spinners to try to catch these trout. I really like to use it in any kind of water. Again, whether you're fishing a small pond, a big lake, or a moving river, the spinners are one of the easiest and fastest ways to see if there's any aggressive fish in the area. Honestly, some of the biggest fish I've ever caught have come on the spinners. It kind of reacts a little bit more aggressive bite from those big fish that want to chase stuff down and kill it, because a lot of these trout are very predatory. So these are some options for you guys to fish. That's the setup, and that's how you get out there and really try to kind of break down the lake and find where these fish are going to be. If you guys like what you saw here today, be sure and comment below. We want to hear you guys' feedbacks, and we want to hear all your questions. We can answer all your questions in that comment feed down below. We're always watching for those questions that you guys have about these tutorials. So comment below, share it out there so everybody else can see this, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because if you don't, you're not going to see all the new trout videos we have coming out every day. So like, share, subscribe, guys. Be sure to comment below, and thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys out there on the lake.